What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape podcast with Mikel and
Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So we're going to start off this episode with a couple of topics. What are your topics, Tanyka?
So we're going to be talking about Shoppers Drug Mart, potentially having a class action against them. Then we're also then going to be talking about another class action case, this time regarding just pharmaceutical companies. And then we're going to be talking about CRA potentially paying millions of dollars to scammers.
Okay, let's begin this episode.
Okay, so first one. So Shoppers Drug Mart is facing a proposed class action lawsuit by current and former franchise owners at the retail chain who allege parent company Loblaw engaged in corporate practices that placed them in a quote irredeemable conflict of interest and put patient care at risk. Interesting. I didn't even know Shoppers Drug Mart or Loblaws was a parent company of Shoppers Drug Mart. I did not know that.
Yeah, no, they are.
Well, you might know that. I did not know that.
No, I thought everybody knew that because it was all over the news on CB24.
No, I had no clue.
On CBC. Oh, okay.
I had no clue. I haven't been paying attention very much to the news.
So when you go to a Shoppers Drug Mart, you don't see the PC points or the Ultima?
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah, their face. Yeah.
I'm fine, guys.
You're good.
I'm so good. Yeah. So the suit, which has not yet been certified, was filed last week at the Ontario Superior Court of Justice by Toronto-based law firm Ricketts Harris LLP. Definitely have worked on files with them before, and lists the plaintiffs as current and former pharmacists who had their agreements with the company terminated after 2014. Right. In a statement of claim reviewed by CTV News Toronto, the class action alleges that a number of corporate practices introduced by Loblaw after its acquisition of Shoppers Drug Mart in 2014 created, quote, risk to patient safety and pose a significant risk of causing patient harm. So that is what's in the statement of claim. So this is being the lead plaintiff in the suit entered and agreed. Sorry, I went too far. Here we go. There we go. The claim notes that Shoppers Drug Mart can and has terminated its contracts with franchise owners who, quote, breach key obligations or criticize their business decisions. I am going to butcher this name, so I apologize in advance. Sivapalan, I apologize. An Ontario pharmacist and lead plaintiff in the suit entered an agreement with Shoppers Drug Mart to run a franchise in Beamsville, Ontario in 2011. He subsequently renewed his agreement in 2014, 2017, and 2020. The suit alleges after Sivapalan, quote, expressed concerns regarding the corporate practices to Shoppers Drug Mart, his agreement was terminated without reason on January 23rd, 2013. Or not, sorry, 2023, not 2013. Moreover, since Shoppers Drug Mart was acquired by Loblaw, franchise owners say they have expressed concerns about the corporate policies and their, quote, increased risk to patient safety. But the claim argues that Shoppers Drug Mart and Loblaw have taken, quote, little to no action to address the concerns. Following a meeting on March 25th of 2024, the Ontario College of Pharmacists, OCP, announced a, quote, zero tolerance policy for business practices that impede pharmacists' quote, ability to deliver effective care after hearing from thousands of pharmacy professionals. In a news release, which does not name any pharmacy retail chain, in particular, the OCP said it found the reports of, quote, inappropriate pressure to conduct meds check appointments deeply troubling. So I'm not sure what meds check is. Maybe that's like a platform that you can use to book appointments. I'm not sure.
When I go into a shopper shop, I see that, like, when I go into the pharmacy, I see that, like, poster that said med check. So, like, I don't know what that is. Like, you
no
confirm, but, like,
I'm not sure if that's in like I go to a Real Canadian Superstore pharmacy, so I'm not sure that's something that's there. But like even this like Friday, I picked up a prescription on Friday. I just went through the drive-through, so I have no clue if this is something that is there as well. Like if it's more of a Shoppers Drug Mart thing, or if it's like a Loblaw thing. So I'm not sure, but I have no clue what it is. I've never. Maybe it's something like if you need to do like a flu vaccine, or they can do like certain vaccines and stuff at the pharmacy. Maybe that's what it's for. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either. I'm trying to do some research, and all I'm seeing is the article right now. So like that you're mentioning right now. So like,
yeah. The college will consider every tool available to us to address these concerns, and this was said by the OCP. To that end, the claim says that the OCP policies put franchise owners at increased risk of regulatory scrutiny and sanction from Shoppers Drug Mart. Our high-level goal is to seek justice for Shoppers Drug Mart franchisees, pharmacists who have been forced to practice under corporate policies that place them in an irredeemable conflict of interest, which affects their ability to provide safe and effective patient care. And this was said by lead counsel Andrea Sanchi, and she said this to CTV News Toronto in an email. So yeah, because like, okay, to make this make a little more sense too, just in case like a layperson wouldn't necessarily think about this or know this, but I did learn this in a case that we actually had at my place. The pharmacist is the person who is the head of a Shoppers Drug Mart, so they're like the franchise owner in a particular Shoppers Drug Mart. So for example, if you're going to a Shoppers Drug Mart, know that the pharmacist there is the owner of that Shoppers Drug Mart. And that's something a layperson wouldn't really know. So that could also not just potentially be affecting the pharmacy, but that could also potentially affect the entire store if they're like just stopping like a contract or whatever. So it could also be someone's livelihood as well.
Right.
When asked for comment on the suit, Loblaw told CTV News Toronto that the case has, quote, no merit whatsoever. Yes, it does. I believe it does. You can't just end a contract with somebody with no warning. You need to give someone a little bit of a warning. That is, at the very least, it's unethical. But if there's anything in a contract that states both parties have to give a warning for something, then there's merit. But I guess we're not going to necessarily know that. And the company plans to vigorously defend itself. But the class action is seeking, among other things, damages for Loblaw's alleged breaches of contract with current and former franchise owners, the amount of which has yet to be determined. So, yeah, the fact that this is a class action case goes to show that there is some form of merit. Right. Some form. But I guess we will see. And I'll keep tabs on that as much as I can. to see kind of if there's any updates. But again, as kind of mentioned before, and we've talked about class action cases before, it's a very slow moving process. It's a very slow moving beast. Um, there's not going to be a lot of, it's not going to be a lot for me to say at this moment. If this case has just started, there's nothing for me to probably find yet. So yeah, as a person who's working on a class action case currently that we've had for 4 years, not much has happened. That's what I'm going to say. So there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about yet.
Right.
We'll see.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have nothing to say on this either. So like,
Yeah.
we'll definitely see and give you
Kind
an
of where
update
this
on
goes. Yeah. Just kind of while us doing more fuck shit, I guess. Like,
yeah.
they're just doing a lot of stuff these days, pissing people off. So
Yeah, the groceries.
yeah,
Those grocery prices are really high, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, cool.
So next topic, and this is again another class action one. So
Okay.
a Quebec Superior Court judge has authorized a class action lawsuit against 16 pharmaceutical companies that are alleged to have misled consumers about the efficiency and dangers of opioid medications. Oh boy. The suit alleges the companies knew how addictive the drugs were, but deliberately misrepresented those risks, leading users to become dependent. I will say, as a person who had to use an opioid, I've been prescribed an opioid 2 different times. I'll tell you this, I think I've only ever used one Percocet. I don't particularly like how the Percocet made me feel. And I had to use an opioid after my surgery. I would say by day 2, I was weaning myself off of it because you are so aware, but that's exactly it. If you're letting people aware or be aware of the effects of these drugs, that maybe a person who is very aware of it will go accordingly. Who maybe doesn't have an addictive personality can maybe be more aware of what they're putting in their body and going accordingly. Like even my brother, Tylenol 3, he was prescribed Tylenol 3s. He used, I think we gave him 2 of those.
Right.
And he never used them after that. So, you know, you just have to be aware. So, anyway, back to the article. Quote, traditionally, opioids were used in a very limited way medically. And this is said by Margo Simonovich, who's one of the lawyers behind the lawsuit. I know that last name. Quote, they were used for palliative care, for example, which is interesting. That's end of life care, cancer treatment, or for acute pain post-surgery, as mentioned. And then in the mid-90s, a new narrative emerged. So that new narrative, if you're curious, involved pharmaceutical companies promoting the use of opioids as safe for a wide range of chronic pain conditions, ranging from, and this might anger some, this is going to anger me a little bit, headaches, back pain, and rheumatoid arthritis. And this was said, again, by that lawyer, and this was said this year. You should not be using an opioid for headaches, back pain. I can't speak on rheumatoid arthritis. I know it's painful, but you should not. Like, again, I was prescribed the Percocet after my last kidney stone attack.
Right.
And that was 2 years ago. I've used one. And the only time I ever used that Percocet was when I had the gallstone attack because I needed the relief. And guess what? The Percocet didn't even do shit. It didn't do anything. So it's there in case of anything, because I will say that pain for those who've had kidney stone attacks and
Mm-hmm.
or gallstone attacks, you
Mm-hmm.
know it's painful. It's
Mm-hmm.
so painful.
Yeah.
You're doubling over in pain. That's the
Mm-hmm.
kind of pain you're experiencing. So
Mm-hmm.
that might be a time where you might need it.
Mm-hmm.
But even when I took that Percocet, I remember saying to my mom, even though I'm in pain, I don't want to take it. But you want the relief. Again, like I said, the Percocet didn't do anything to relieve me. At least like not right away. It might have, um,
Yeah. And
but
you know,
yeah. But I
and
want to take that for a headache or back pain.
yeah, there's a lot of healthier options to
Yeah.
for, to take that for. You can drink water for your headaches. You can just like drink tea for your headaches. You can.
Yeah, but if you have really intense headache, like my boyfriend says the same shit to me too. When I have a headache, it when you have that headache, at least for me, when you have a headache like that, water or tea isn't gonna help. If you have a migraine, nothing is gonna help. Especially water is not gonna help. I'm okay with like I will take a Tylenol if I need to take something or an
Yeah,
Advil.
yeah, I was gonna go there.
Um, if you need to take that,
But but
but
but Advil's not, technically good for you. You don't need to. You can't be taking Advil like that.
Advil is not good to use prolonged periods of
Yeah,
time. You're
yeah.
okay to take an Advil,
Hmm.
or if you need to take an Advil for a couple of days or whatever, but it's not something you take for prolonged periods of time. Like my brother was on Advil after surgery because it's good for dental pain,
Mm.
and you're only supposed to be on it for a prolonged period of time for 10 days. He stopped taking it before that 10 days, but he was getting close because he's inflamed, he's in pain, he needs it. So that's like the time you take it. I've sprained my
Mm.
ankle. They say Advil is best for that. But again, this is put in hindsight to show kind of how bad Advil can be. You're not supposed to take any type of Advil or whatever the group that Advil's under. You're not supposed to take
Mhm.
anything like that prior to a surgery because it can affect the anesthesia. So
Right,
that just
right.
goes to show. But I used to take Advil, um, like for like period pain and whatever. I stopped taking it for period pain because it can create blood clots. So
Mm.
I stopped taking Advil for that. Really and truly, unless I'm in excruciating pain, I don't take anything for period pain anymore, anyways.
Mm.
But when I was younger, I had a lot of pain. Not so much now as an adult, but in my
Mm.
early
Mm.
20s, I wouldn't um, use anything now just because like I don't have the same pain level that I used to. But during that time, but if I do, Tylenol, I will use Tylenol because we have both in our house. We have the Advil, we have the Tylenol because my mom can't use Advil because it goes through your stomach. It affects your stomach. So, but yeah. But again, like I said, like I have opioids in my home because they were prescribed to me. I don't even leave them in the bathroom. I leave them here in my room because like not to say that my brother would take that and like whatever, but I feel like it's just safer here because I don't want anyone else taking it. And I don't touch it unless I really have to. And that's like I'm doubling over in pain because like, you know, because of, obvious things that have happened with me. But yeah. So where are we here? So yeah, doctors, so this is a quote, doctors were told that if they didn't promote opioids and use them for their patients, they were doing their patients a disservice. And it just took off and became a huge industry. So that sounds very reminiscent of COVID. The same thing. Doctors were told that we have to promote the vaccine. And I'm not necessarily, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not against the vaccine. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm a person coming in as a person I have had to do the vaccine. So I just putting that out there. But we don't know what foreign things we were putting in our bodies and what that meant for people with underlying conditions. So yeah, the same similar to that. It just kind of looks like the doctors are being told to do something and they have to, otherwise they risk their license. That's what was going on with COVID as well. So I'm assuming this was what was happening with the opioid. And they play a hand in the opioid epidemic. And that's unfortunate. So the lawyer, Simonovich, again, sorry, said the lawsuit's representative plaintiff, Jean-Francis Boroza, has a typical story. So Boroza, who owned a roofing company, was prescribed opioids after he fell on the job in 2005 and suffered multiple fractures. Over the next decade, he was prescribed a range of opioids, but says he was never warned by a doctor or pharmacist about any risks, according to Justice Gray D.D. Morrison's April 10th decision authorizing the class action. So by 2012, Morrison said Boroza was being prescribed the maximum dose. But over the following years, the medication stopped having any effect because that is what happens. An opioid, it mimics the pain that you're feeling. Eventually, if you're taking too much of it, it's basically like it's tricking your mind to continue with it because it's making your body mimic the pain that you're experiencing, which then makes you want to take more to offset the pain that the medication is making you feel. And again, I'm sure this person had chronic pain, so that's the difference. Chronic pain is not gonna really ever go away, unfortunately, why it's called chronic. But you can maybe manage it with certain things. Opioid is meant to be temporary, and you don't even need to use all of them. Again, like I just mentioned, prescribed opioids. My brother prescribed, well, I'm not sure if Tylenol 3 is considered an opioid. It's not an opioid, it's a narcotic. But what I was prescribed was an opioid. They're still sitting there. I didn't even finish them. Even after surgery, I maybe took those for a few days and weaned myself off and only took Tylenol. Or I would only take that opioid at nighttime to make sure I could sleep. And I would only take Tylenol during the day, like whatever kind of thing. It's meant to be temporary. And the effects of an opioid, like that people just don't even think of, like it can also cause other issues as well. That, for example, sorry, we're going to get a little gross here. It can cause constipation. So imagine being on an opioid all the time. You're affecting your body in other ways as well than just that. Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Crazy. People continue to take it and not realize the effects that have in your body. So,
and that's the thing. Like when I had my surgery, I was told, if you don't use the bathroom after a certain amount of days, like take a Restore-Lax or some sort of laxative that will, be gentle to your body and make you go. I didn't realize though that the reason they said that was because of the medication, not because of the surgery or the anesthesia. So I didn't know that. But my mom ended up calling the pharmacy on my behalf after that to basically ask, like, how long is too long? And it was from the pharmacist that we found out that it was because of the opioid, not because of the surgery itself. So we never would have known otherwise. Yeah, unless you maybe get you don't get like that long, you don't get the piece of paper anymore that have all like the side effects and stuff with medications anymore. You basically just have to call the pharmacist and be like, so what are the side effects if you really need to know? Or they'll tell you or whatever, but you just don't get that piece of paper anymore. So yeah, it's interesting to kind of be like, well, yeah, that's one problem. That's a major problem with being addicted, but it also has other side effects that you just don't think about. Unbelievable. So yeah, so he was given the maximum dose and the medicine. So in 2017, he sought medical treatment for opioid addiction. It was at that time he learned about the dangers of the drugs. So he didn't even find out, like, we already were aware of the opioid epidemic at 2017, but he didn't know. And at the end of the day, even if you know that there's an epidemic, your doctor is still required to make sure that you're well aware of the side effects and everything. And again, I didn't get refills for opioids. If you needed to get a refill, I would have had to go to my family doctor. And that also is it's a way of also kind of making you realize, okay, I only have X amount of pills. I'm still in pain. So I should try to do something else so that in case of anything, I still have those pills. Because I don't want to be in a position where I have to go to my doctor and be like, I need more, and they're questioning that. Because the surgeon wasn't going to prescribe me anymore. It was a hard no. If I needed more, I had to go to my doctor. So that's the other thing too, is it's like, is that not how it always was?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
So Burroughs was diagnosed with severe opioid use disorder and completed treatment to his addiction at a Montreal hospital. Yet after he left the treatment program, he received another opioid prescription from his doctor at a lower dose than before. What in God's name was happening? This is ridiculous. As a result, he was readmitted into a drug rehab program in 2018, so only a year later. In court, Burroughs described his experience with opioids as his hell on earth. The class action includes everyone in Quebec who was prescribed opioid medications made by the 16 defendant pharmaceutical companies between 96 and present, and who was subsequently diagnosed with opioid use disorder. Opioids that are not included in the lawsuit are OxyContin and OxyNeo. I don't know what that is. I've been prescribed OxyContin, which were the subject of a separate national class action lawsuit that has since been settled, and those that were exclusively used in hospitals. Several companies named when the suit was first proposed, but that had limited activities in Quebec, have already settled. So we don't really know who those companies are. So the lawyer, who's the head of this class action, says she doesn't know how many people may be included in the class action lawsuit, because this is kind of the time where you're still having people calling in being like, here's my story, and that there's still appear to be in the early stages. So that process alone, again, I have been witness of the early stages of a class action case. That process of including people in a lawsuit can go on for at minimum a year. So
Yeah.
the class action can still be growing.
Yeah.
So she said around 15% of Quebec residents are prescribed opioids every year. She said, adding that somewhere between 5% and 10% of opioid users become dependent or addicted. The pharmaceutical companies named in the suit argued against allowing the class action to proceed. They said the lawsuit treated all opioids as if they were the same. That it provided no evidence that all opioid medications are addictive. Are you insane? They are. anyways, that the companies did not misrepresent their drugs and that the proposed suit included firms whose drugs the representative plaintiff never consumed. Besides the point, they're going to include all of them in case of if people are being added and they've consumed them. They're not just gonna they're gonna do all of them. That's what you do. It's better to add everybody in a lawsuit than to right in the beginning and take them out as time goes on than it is to add them once a case has already started. That's how the law works. Anyone knows that who works in law.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't.
Here.
I didn't know that. I'm not.
Yeah, no. I know,
law.
but
Yeah.
that's if you ever were in a situation, include everybody. Even if you don't know who that person is, you can include them as like a John Doe company or a John Doe whatever.
Right.
That way, once you know who that person is, all you gotta do is just amend the claim. It's a very simple process.
Okay.
And usually isn't opposed by other counsel. In an email statement, Sanofi Canada said the decision is purely procedural. The decision does not in any way relate to Sanofi's liability, which is denied. Is this the same case? Yeah, this is the same. It's just I don't know who Sanofi is. So they continue to defend this matter. They believe that the claims are without merit and they will vigorously contest them. So this is one of the companies that is a part of that case. Teva Canada said it, quote, supports the safe and appropriate usage of opioid medications under the supervision of healthcare professionals, but declined to comment further, whilst Pfizer declined to comment at all. Go figure. None of the other companies named in the suit responded to requests to comment from the Canadian press, and those companies are the following: Abbott Laboratories, Apotex, Bristol Myers Squibb Canada, Ethypharm, Janssen, Laboratoire Altus, which is I think a French company, Laboratoire Riva, Laboratoire Trianon, Pharmascience, ProDoc, Purdue Pharma, and Sun Pharma Canada. So those are the companies that are included. Simnovich said she and her colleagues are waiting to see whether the defendants will seek permission to appeal the authorization. She said she hopes some will settle, but added that she and her colleagues are prepared to go to trial. Love it. The suit seeks $30,000 in damages for each member of the class, plus additional damages to be determined on an individual basis, as well as a total of $25 million in punitive damages. The Quebec government has joined a separate proposed class action lawsuit brought by the government of British Columbia against dozens of opioid makers. The suit seeks billions of dollars for healthcare costs related to the opioid crisis. So there's a lot going on with that. But that's the end of that article.
Okay, we'll see what will happen. You know, like the other articles. So
yeah. So, moving away from class actions, let's talk about the very last topic, and that is CRA giving millions and millions of dollars to scammers.
We're talking about a lot about the CRA on this podcast.
We have. So a once sealed affidavit filed with the Tax Court of Canada and obtained by the Fifth Estate details how alleged scammers tricked the Canada Revenue Agency and made off with $37 million of taxpayers' money.
That's crazy.
I'm pissed. In the document, a litigation officer with the Canada Revenue Agency alleges that Toronto area company Goldline Telemanagement made, quote, material misstatements on tax returns and was, quote, part of a group of companies that participated in sham transactions. The affidavit, which lawyers at KPMG said could cause, quote, irreparable harm to Goldline if it was released, and was kept off the public record for 10 months. After a petition to the court from the Fifth Estate, KPMG eventually reversed its position late last year and said its client would no longer oppose the release. In its own court filings, Goldline has rejected CRA allegations, stating, quote, there was no deceit, intentional or otherwise, in its filings, and that it is genuinely engaged in the long-distance telecom business. Goldline has been in the telecom business for decades, selling prepaid long-distance telephone cards and other services. The CRA alleges that starting in 2016, Goldline acted as a middle party in the world of wholesale telecom, purporting to buy and sell international telephone call minutes. Based on what the CRA now alleges were sham transactions, the company claimed and received $37 million in sales tax refunds. Some of the companies in Goldline's supply chain are alleged to have participated in a separate case reported on by the Fifth Estate late last year. In that instance, the CRA admits it paid out more than $63 million in what it now calls illegitimate tax refunds. What is happening? Between these two cases, the CRA claims to have wrongly dispersed $100 million to carousel schemes, a type of fraud that has been well known to Canadian tax authorities for many years. What a lord. We're going to talk about it. Also known as, quote, missing trader fraud, carousel schemes rely on complicated supply chains filled with fake companies and invoices to create the appearance that legitimate business transactions are taking place. The companies then submit bogus tax refund claims that are paid out by unwitting governments. Yeah.
You would think the Canadian government would spot this right away or something like that.
You would think. But at the end of the day, there are people who work in this area, and people aren't always smart.
True. Oh, well, so, they have the resources there, so like, you know. So.
I don't know. So, quote, how much do you have to lose before you realize that your tax system might be vulnerable? As Mikel just mentioned. So this was said by Mike Cheatham, who is a Dubai-based tax fraud analyst. And he said this in an interview, saying, quote, if I have to put the blame anywhere, it's all squarely and fairly on the CRA. Cheatham has previously appeared as an expert witness before European Union committees regarding carousel schemes. He said other countries have implemented a, quote, reverse charge mechanism to sectors prone to carousel fraud, like telecom and precious metals trading, something Canada has not yet done. One Lord. With the reverse charge mechanism in place, certain industries are exempt from collecting sales taxes in order to prevent bogus refunds.
Right.
Saying, quote, it would take a single paragraph of text in the legislation to inhibit this kind of fraud, adding that there are 20 years of milestones in Europe proving it works. That's because Europe is better than us. I'm just saying that right now. He said that without these kinds of changes, Canada's tax system is wide open for abuse. Saying, quote, I will bet there's another 5 or 10 cases that haven't yet been discovered underway now as we speak. Yeah. Federal Revenue Minister Marie-Claude Bibeau did not respond to an email from the Fifth Estate asking why the federal government has not implemented the kind of preventative measures taken more than a decade ago in Europe. In January, Gerald Soroka, the Conservative Member of Parliament for the Yellowhead riding west of Edmonton, asked the government in writing for an estimate of how much unwarranted money the CRA has paid out as a result of carousel schemes. Bibeau responded that the CRA was, quote, unable to provide the information because there is no systematic way to estimate the amount of all unwanted payments. Okay. Previous filings made in the case and not under seal state that while KPMG provided Gold, that's the law firm, by the way, provided Goldline with external, quote, accounting support and audited its financial statements, it did not prepare the GST returns at issue. Today, KMG Law, the legal branch of the firm, represents Goldline Tax in court. In a statement, KPMG said, quote, due to client confidentiality, it cannot provide comment on the case. Fair. Goldline also said that as the matter is before the courts, it had been advised not to comment. Yep. So, according to a CRA analyst, Goldline sold 10 million more minutes than it purchased. But as an intermediary, Goldline sales and purchases should be relatively equal. There is overwhelming evidence that Goldline was colluding with its suppliers and customers to deceive the CRA. And this is what is said in the once sealed affidavit, which is now public. The CRA alleges the company was either knowingly involved in the scheme or grossly negligent, noting that Goldline did business with Canadian suppliers that were not registered to collect GST or HST, didn't have proper telecom licenses, quote, had no business location, had no telecommunications experience, and had no employees other than the shareholder/director. Based on this and a number of other factors, the CRA concluded that the purchase and sales transactions are sham. The case is ongoing in the Tax Court of Canada, and Goldline argues that the tax credits it claimed were entirely based on taxes it paid to its Canadian suppliers. Other companies in the supply chain have also gone to court to deny the CRA's allegations, none of which have been tested in court. It is possible that some intermediaries in carousel schemes can be caught up unwittingly. That's possible. I mean, I believe the CRA, kind of as mentioned by our expert, should have caught this, and they didn't. And yeah. But that's the end of that article.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the government needs to do better in terms of searching out these types of scams, because, like, yeah, shouldn't be happening.
No. But yeah, that's it for me.
So this ends this episode of the Next Tape Podcast. The Next Tape Podcast is available on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called solo.to/Next Tape Podcast. Tanyka, where else are we at?
We are on Facebook and Instagram at Next Tape Podcast, and Twitter and TikTok at Next Tape Pod.
And contact us at Mikel at Tanyka at gmail.com.
Mikel Tanyka at gmail.com.
Mikel Tanyka at gmail.com. That's our email, guys, if you want to contact us. Yep. So yeah, we talked about trio things. Shoppers Drug Mart. What else?
The class action where the pharmaceutical companies with respect to the opioid epidemic. And then the CRA.
Yeah, CRA. Okay.
Being looped into a sham.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Do you have anything else to say, Tanyka, or that's pretty much it?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Okay. So I'm Mikel and
I'm Tanyka.
We are out until next week, guys. Peace.
Bye.